Heaven Burns Red is certainly living up to its name right now, as it is being flamed and burning red up to high heaven following their recent 3.5 anniversary. And yes, I did stretch to make that joke. But seriously, this update was so bad that on Steam, the game, which previously held a very clear, mostly positive rating, has had a tsunami tidal wave of negative reviews in just the past week or so. For context, in recent months, there have been 1 or 2 reviews for the game every now and then, but since the 3.5 anniversary on the 17th of July 2025, as you can see, there are 135 negative reviews, 306, 148, 137, and counting. Players with hundreds, thousands, even tens of thousands of hours invested into this game are leaving negative reviews expressing their dissatisfaction. And that's just the reviews on Steam, let alone the ones on the Google Play Store, the App Store, and while the overall scores are still very good, at least now anyway, that's just a testament of just how beloved this game had been up until this controversy. This video will be divided into 3 parts. The first explains what Heaven Burns Red is, the second explains the changes that led to the backlash, and the third presents some of the responses from the Japanese players that I have found online. With that being said, here is a quick overview of Heaven Burns Red. Available on both mobile and Windows, Heaven Burns Red is a turn-based role-playing game. Set in the fictional world, Earth is under siege by a mysterious alien race called Cancer. These aliens are immune to any kind of human-based weapons like guns or missiles, which forced humanity to abandon life on the Earth's surface. Eventually, mankind was able to create a weapon called Seraph, which could do damage to the aliens, so humanity gathered those who had mastered the art of manipulating these Seraphs into the Seraph Corps. The only thing that those in the Seraph Corps have in common is that they're all young teenage girls, because of course they are. Except for this white tiger for animated logic reasons. While there is combat that many people enjoy, the game's biggest draw for most players is its story written by Maeda Jun. Maeda is a veteran in the industry who has worked on other popular titles like Clannad and Angel Beats, just to name a few. But in this 3.5 anniversary livestream, they announced not 1, not 2, not 3, but 5 game-breaking changes that have outraged their players. So what exactly were they? Number 1, nerfing the overdrive system. Okay, the overdrive system works like this. As you fight, you fill up a gauge, and filling it up once gives you 1 charge, and you can continue to charge it up to 3 times before you can activate it. Depending on how many charges you have, you get a certain damage bonus buff as well as extra turns. Before, you could chain overdrive to activate as soon as 1 had ended, creating an infinite overdrive buff loop. But under this new system, there is now a cooldown before it can be activated again. And not only that, they also added a cap on how many times overdrive can be used per battle. They tried to offset this nerf by increasing the damage bonuses for overdrives 2 and 3, but players were not eager to make that trade-off. To use another game, for example, and while this is not exactly the same at all, it would be like adding a cooldown between how quickly you could use an intro or outro skill in Wuthering Waves, even if the concerto meter is full, or maybe like adding an ult cooldown between characters on top of the cooldowns that they already have, as well as capping how many times you can use ults too. Again, like I said, this is not exactly the same, but I'm trying to express what it's kind of like. The point is though that they have crippled a system in the combat that many players enjoyed because a small number of players were skilled enough or strong enough to continuously loop these overdrive buffs. And it's not like they were abusing a bug or anything. The overdrive system was being used as implemented. These changes to the overdrive system were actually announced a week before the official livestream, and it got backlash then too. They released a statement saying that they were looking into revising those changes, but whatever changes they made, it wasn't good enough, as the ones that they officially announced in the livestream didn't go over well either. Mainly because many players have spent money to pull characters and pull dupes of characters with the express intention of quickly building up that overdrive gauge, so this change makes their investment almost completely worthless. But they're not the only ones. The devs made sweeping changes to the way the damage multipliers were being calculated. Now, instead of the multipliers being cumulative as they were before, the separate multipliers will be added together. The TLDR on these multiplier changes effectively means that, according to this here, teams will now be doing damage just 1/3 of what they used to. And just like characters that were pulled for their overdrive capability, the SSR characters whose main selling point was their separate multiplicative buffs have thus also lost their importance. Leading me onto my next point that if you want to get that level of damage back, you have to pull duplicates in order to get a currency called shards to limit break the characters. Before, many characters were strong enough that you could use them as is with just a single copy, but due to these recent game balance adjustments, high stats gained through limit breaking are now more important than ever. Did I mention that there are 6 characters to a single team? No? Well, there are. So on top of already needing a large roster of characters, you now have to limit break all of them several times, which is going to be a lot worse in the future because they'll be increasing the proportion of new limited characters in the future. So instead of 1 or 2 new characters per patch, there'll be a lot more to pull for, meaning a lot more you'll need to pull duplicates for in order to limit break them. But that's not the worst part. The worst part, in my opinion, is this. They brought out a new highest tier rarity. This new tier they introduced has rare special abilities that no other characters in the game have. In combination with them increasing the need to limit break older characters and introducing this new tier to put this in other gacha game terms, what they effectively did was turn all their 5-star characters into 4 stars and reintroduced a new lineup of new 5-star characters. So imagine you spend 3.5 years playing a gacha game, pulling for characters, maybe even spending money to get those rare 5-star characters. Then out of nowhere, the devs say, surprise, now there are 6-star characters. Good luck pulling for them. Can you imagine just how absolutely devastating that must feel? They basically just reset their entire gacha system and lineup of characters 3.5 years into the game. Yeah, it is not looking good. Everyone is pissed. Well, almost everyone. Despite all the hate the game has been getting, there are still a few out there that are defending it and even defending the changes. Looking on Steam, there is a small handful of positive reviews. This review is from a self-described casual player who is only leaving a positive review because they don't want the game to EOS. This other review says that they're giving a positive review because now would be a good time for new players to jump in, taking advantage of the 100 free pulls to get a new SSR unit. But even then, they're calling out the devs at the end. This one here says that with or without the buffs and debuffs, it feels good to deal a lot of damage. Okay. There's this review here that says there's all this fuss about buffs and nerfs, but in the world of gacha games, power creep is so common that all you have to do is pull the new unit to get started. So I think we should be a little bit more lenient. I'm a little concerned that the main story hasn't progressed in so long, nor have there been any new songs, but even still, this is a game I can fully recommend. And finally, there is this one here that threw a few shots saying, you should just ignore the people whining about the overdrive loop. Most of them are just watching videos and pulling on the gachas. And as for the nerfs, they're just complaining because it's more difficult to deal damage now, so you should ignore those too. Power creep is just a result of players not progressing through the main story. And while the devs are to blame, these nerfs are understandable because they want to return the game to the RPG they intended it to be. People who are saying that the characters are trash now aren't the type of people that want actual battle content anyway. Any new players complaining are just projecting themselves into the conversation, and any actual beginners will eventually adapt to the new changes. The score attack since 3.5 is a lot more well balanced, so in conclusion, the only people complaining are the ones who don't actually want any battle content. Now, with that handful of reviews defending it out of the way, let's take up some of the negative reviews, and oh boy are there quite a few of them. This one with the most upvotes just goes over the changes introduced in the livestream that I have already gone over, but caps it off with a sarcastic, well, they dropped so much information for us about these nerfs, so let's all get excited and hyped for the 3.5 anniversary, guys. Woohoo, let's go! But I think this one here best expresses the overall sentiment for Heaven Burns Red in recent months, not just the past livestream either. Even though I listed just 5 things in this video, they went through 11 things that they think are problems with the game in recent years. On top of the things I've already gone over, they mentioned the deterioration of both 2D and 3D graphics as a result of cost cutting. Less monthly events in favor of shorter snap events, on top of the lack of main story progression, a stronger push for the combat instead of focusing on the story, which was the main draw of this game for most players. And the reason for this change wasn't due to Maeda-jun delaying it either, but because the company at large was pushing for it. They say, as I write this, I am surprised at how terrible the devs have become. Rather than saying that they have changed, I should say that their true nature has finally been revealed. I wanted to invest my time in this game enjoying Maeda-jun's story and songs with Yugen's art and Yanagi's singing, but I was forced to invest in a troublesome, stressful and boring battle game from a company I just don't understand anymore, making all of that past investment wasted. It's a complete waste of money, and not a small amount of money at that. I will never play a game from Gree again. I learned that it is very important to properly investigate the identity of the publishers when it comes to these managed games. The highest voted comment on the official livestream was about how the devs release characters that power crept their lineup, all the while knowing that they were going to nerf them in the future. There was this comment here that said that they can no longer trust the developers who would overhaul their entire game systems. But as I said at the beginning of this video, this game's biggest draw is the story that hasn't been updated since February 21st of last year. Each update has been nothing but filler patch after filler patch, leaving players nothing else to do but pull for the new unit to clear the usual gameplay loop. And now that they've introduced these nerfs, which make that a lot harder to do without pulling copies, players are getting fed up. Those that are staying for the story aren't getting it, and those that are hanging about to pull the new characters to clear the gameplay now won't be able to do so unless they start wailing for copies. And while yes, the pull rate is higher than most other gacha games out there at 3% for an SS rank unit compared to 0.6 or 0.8% for premium characters in other games, the pity is significantly higher at 200 pulls and no 50-50. To be fair, they are also pretty generous with the free pulls. In this same 3.5 anniversary, they gave out 100 free pulls to all players, but in the end, it doesn't really matter because, as I said, no one is happy. After doing a quick search for Heaven Burns Red retirement, which is the term that Japanese use to say that they are uninstalling or deactivating their account, I found a lot of results of players saying that they are quitting the game as a result of these changes. I'm sorry that this video is coming out considerably late considering all that's happened, but that's because I wanted to see how the developers would respond because I had a feeling that they wouldn't just ignore this, and I'm glad I did because a week after the livestream they issued a statement on Twitter with some amendments and apology rewards. I won't go into the entire nitty-gritty here, but what it amounts to is this. They first apologized for the lack of consideration for their users, and when it comes to any changes to the changes announced in the 3.5 livestream, they removed the overdrive cooldown but kept the limit cap on the number of times it can be used to prevent infinite loops. The damage calculation multiplier nerfs for all characters, including the existing SSR characters, will remain. However, instead now, the enemy's HP in the daily content will be reduced to compensate. They are still going to go ahead with introducing a new highest rarity tier of characters. However, a transition period will be set up until the end of the year, until which only SS characters released this year will be limit breakable using the existing methods. They also said that they plan to give out more limit break materials throughout the year to help their players in this transition. They announced that the development director and the producer will both be holding a live broadcast to explain their situation, set for the 29th of July when this video is being uploaded, as well as sending out a lot of polls and other materials as an apology. I've been looking through the comments, tweets and other discussion boards to see what the Japanese players think about this, and the reaction to this announcement has been mixed. Some seem happy, some say that they still can't trust them anymore, and some are waiting for the livestream in August to make their final decision. I'll be keeping an eye on the situation, but right now it seems that they are on very, very thin ice. I don't know if the game will announce its end of service in a few months as a result of this, but at this point in time, with the way things are going, it certainly doesn't look good. We will just have to wait and see what the developers say in this extra 3.5 livestream. But what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comment section below. And if you like this video and you want to see more like this as well, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe because it greatly supports the channel. So until next time, I will see you in the next video. Peace.